Today on today on Locked On Rockies, let's win some money.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the first day of April, and no fooling, we are here talking about Rockies baseball yet again. Proud to be your first listen and proud to be part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day, because that's what we do around here. We talk about the Colorado Rockies every single weekday, I should specify that. Like I said, I'm Paul Holden. You can find me on the airwaves in the Pacific Northwest. You can also find me online at paulfholden.com. I also just edited and produced and co-created the complete online Mario Superstar Baseball documentary that was just released today. So if you like Mario Superstar Baseball and want to check that out, head on over to the Chat Pack YouTube page, and you can find this big video project I did. You tuned into this podcast, however, to listen about the Rockies, and that's what we're going to do. Friday, I figured what better way to have a fun Friday podcast than taking a look at some of the player odds that BetOnline has for Rockies players, some futures, and maybe see if we can get people placing some wagers ahead of time and get themselves winning a little bit of money. Because again, as I've said, and I want to again kind of pump my own brakes, because you might have heard a lot. I've been more impressed with the Rockies. I've been in a positive attitude about the Rockies. I'm still very cautiously optimistic about this team. They have to prove themselves. The plan has to actually work, and we have to actually see a performance on the field. But there's reason to be excited. And when I did the first episode in a similar theme to this, which was talking about the Rockies over under win total at 68.5, I think that's a good place to kind of revisit and reseed our foundation. I think let's double check what the regular season win total is for the Rockies, if it has changed at all on BetOnline. It has not. The Rockies are currently sitting at an line of 68.5 wins. The over is a -145. The under is +115. Don't waste your money and bet the under, because I don't think that's going to happen. If the Rockies collapse, if this bullpen can't produce, if this bullpen can't figure out and keep the Rockies in games, if losing John Gray it proves to be a bigger deal for this rotation, and the additions in the offseason don't change that is going to be an issue. However, I still think the Rockies are an over 68.5 win team. And then I think with a lot of kind of my homerism, I've been inflating that number, but I'm still very confident in the Rockies being a 73 to 75 win team. And if the Rockies really perform well, if some luck falls their way, if they're able to get out there and string together some solid road performances, especially, the Rockies might find themselves around 80 wins. I'm not going to count on that until the Rockies have a realistic path at that in the middle of the season, especially after the start of the season. I want to see this new team come together here. And, we need to see some good stuff from the Rockies before I'm about to sit here and start being like, hey, they're severely underrated and they need to be putting this 80 win for sure in that third wild card. The path is there, but, it's an interesting one. Dennis Schumar in the chat says, need Sam Hilliard to start this year. It's going to be really interesting what the Rockies do with Sam Hilliard. I think the Grichuk trade is going to be the biggest hurdle for that, but I think the Rockies are going to turn to Sam Hilliard because of not only his performance this spring, but the fact that he was getting some looks at the end of the year. I'm not sure if we have any future bets on Sam Hilliard here, but let's take a look and see if we do. I'm going to scroll down just while we're talking about it. We don't have any yet on Sam Hilliard, but Dennis, to answer your question, I would Sam Hilliard's going to start, and he's going to start pretty soon. I don't know if he starts the season, but he will be in there in that mix as well. So let's start here. These are some pretty good bet lines, and let's talk about some of them here. And we're gonna go again. We're at BetOnline. You can head on over there. They of course sponsor the show, and they are providing all of our lines here. Brendan Rodgers, total home runs in the 2022 regular season, over under 19.5. Ooh, that one's tough. A great year for Brendan Rodgers in terms of power and offense is 20 plus. I don't necessarily, man, I would say like 18 to 19 is right where I would expect Brendan Rodgers to be in terms of home runs. If he goes over that, that means he's got a little bit more power, or hitting for a little more power than I thought. If I was going to take that, I'd probably take the under there, just because I think he's going to hit 19. I don't know if he'll get to that 20, but again, if we see that 20, I'm going to love that. If Rodgers gets is 20, he can get 20 home runs and steal 20 plus bags, maybe he's going to be a threat. He's really going to be, seeing that type of line kind of gets me a little more excited for Brendan Rodgers. Now, for the other line that Rodgers is listed at, over under 67.5 RBIs, I'm taking that over if I'm putting money down. I think Brendan Rodgers is going to be leaned on to be an RBI generator. I see Brendan Rodgers maybe being in that 3 hole behind Charlie Blackmon and Ryan McMahon, maybe moving around there with McMahon in that 2-3 spot. But I think Brendan Rodgers is going to be in an opportunity to score runs, and I really hope that Brendan Rodgers is a doubles machine. He's someone that comes up and if he hits the home run, great. That's an added bonus. But instead, we're looking for a great, full, complete approach at the plate that leads to great hitting for contact in the gap, taking advantage of your home ballpark and just being able to be a threat on the road without having to rely solely on hitting the long shot. I think those are pretty good lines to set for Brendan Rodgers. I think that's a good benchmark for Brendan Rodgers to have for this season. I think that's going to be something that if he hits the over on both of those, then you're feeling even better and more confident about Brendan Rodgers going forward. If he hits the over on both of those, with the exception of not striking out a ton, I would say maybe in there with a low OBP or batting average in there, mixed in there as well. I want Brendan Rodgers to get on base. I want everyone to get on base, but I would also be ecstatic if Brendan Rodgers hits for over 20 home runs and has over 67 RBIs, over 68 RBIs. A 20 home runs, 70 RBI season for Brendan Rodgers. That sounds really, really good to me, and a great sign of Rodgers taking a step forward and becoming a more consistent and a better bat and a bigger threat on this offense. Let's also here's probably, I would say, a lot of people's interest in the Rockies, or who I think a lot of people who don't follow the Rockies are going to look to bet on this season and throughout the course of this season. CJ Crone, it's his line here, over under 29.5 home runs and over 90.5 RBIs. Holy smokes. I'm taking the under on the home runs because I'm thinking 28 home runs for CJ Crone. I think that's something. But again, man, this is people really looking at CJ Crone to be a RBI machine, 90 RBIs, and I mean Crone's had some really great swings this spring that has made me feel even more confident. And if Crone takes a step up from last year. Let me get CJ Crone 2021 stats here real quick. We can compare those. CJ Crone last year, 24 home runs. Oh, no, I know. Sorry. What is it? 2020. Here we go. 2021. 28 home runs, 92 RBIs for CJ Crone last year's 28 home runs, 92 RBIs. So if CJ Crone has the same season as last year, he'll hit the RBI over and hit the under on the home runs. And that's what I'm saying. I don't see CJ Crone taking a huge leap in more home runs. I want CJ Crone to hit 28 home runs again. I want CJ Crone to be exactly who he was last year, if not maybe a little bit better. So if he hits 28 home runs and you miss on the over, I'm not going to be too disappointed because CJ Crone hit another 28 home runs. I maybe the being familiar with Colorado, maybe being in the system for a year, maybe getting the extension as well helps him develop a better mindset at the dish. But I don't know. However, I think what's more likely to happen is we see an increase in RBIs this year, not by a ton from CJ Crone, but he will be a big reason why the Rockies score runs this year, without a doubt, and a big reason why you can beat the hunger in the afternoon is with Built Bar, and Built Bar is the bar for you if you're looking to replace your snacking habits with something that is much, much better than that candy bar. Most Built Bars contain 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. And when you head to Built.com and see the macro charts for yourself, you'll be blown away with the high protein, low calorie, high fiber, and low carb options. There's not just the Built Bars. There's tons of other great options for you at Built.com, including the Built Bar Puffs. They're the first ever protein-infused marshmallow. Yes, that's right, folks. I said protein-infused marshmallow. Can't be beat over there at Built.com, and you can see all the great choices, all the great flavors of such a wide variety of products at Built.com. At Built Bar, they're all about taste. They make it delicious first, then they figure out how to make it healthy, and I don't know how. It sounds like a bunch of science, but they pull it off every time. Go to Built.com, use the promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your order. That's promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. That's 15% off at Built.com when you use the promo code LOCKED15. We are looking at more player props for the Rockies this season. We talked about Brendan Rodgers and CJ Crone. Of course, we're getting all of our lines from our friends at BetOnline. Let's take a look at Charlie Blackmon. Charlie Blackmon's home runs are at 17 and a half, and Charlie Blackmon's RBI line is set at 74 and a half. I am going to go ahead and take, if I wanted to feel better about Charlie Blackmon, I'm thinking that I would take the over, because I'm kind of hoping when Charlie Blackmon is a DH, he can take the mindset of Joey Votto and did last year and start hitting more home runs and get back to a home run swing. So he doesn't have to rely on hitting the ball, being a more contact hitter and using the declining speed that he has. However, I think if that's his approach, that could see a dip in his RBIs. And if the Rockies are going to use him at the leadoff, hit him in his RBI total, I would take the under on 74 and a half. If Charlie Blackmon is truly going to be the leadoff batter for the Colorado Rockies, I just don't know how many opportunities he will get. It all depends on how well the bottom of the order can perform. There is a lot of interesting options, for sure. Charlie Blackmon will hit the over if the bottom of the order is able to perform with the addition of the DH. If Connor Joe playing a factor in there, mixing things up with Iglesias and Diaz at the bottom of the order, that might provide a better opportunity for Blackmon to have RBIs. I just think it's more likely that you'll see Charlie Blackmon hit an over on something like home runs, because I really do think he was looking at someone like Joey Votto, someone who's who's can just decided, I'm going to hit home runs now. And I think Charlie Blackmon could do something very similar in that. I don't know if it's going to be as successful. I don't know. Joey Votto is an elite hitter and has always been, always has been, but the same could be said for Charlie Blackmon. So if I'm putting my money down on these BetOnline props for Charlie Blackmon, I am taking the over on 17 and a half home runs, but I'm taking under on 74 and a half RBIs, just because I'm not sure how many RBI opportunities Charlie Blackmon is going to get. We will talk about pitchers here in a second, but I wanted to skip down on the BetOnline of MLB futures and talk about Kris Bryant. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be curious about this one as well. Kris Bryant, total home runs in the 2022 season. The line for home runs is set at 30 and a half, and his RBI total is set at 90 and a half. Kris Bryant really needs to hit the over on that RBIs because I think that's got to be his role. I would really like Kris Bryant if he really performs well and he's really as someone that the Rockies can truly count on in this manner. He will be someone that should flirt with 100 RBIs if the Rockies offense is clicking and he's swinging the bat well. 30 home runs, I still think is pretty reasonable. We also have Kris Bryant. I'm going to see if he is what his. I'm curious what he is listed for the home run leader this year. Here we go, home run leader. Let's see where we can find Kris Bryant on this list. Dun, 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 dun. CJ Crone is listed at as the home run leader at plus 6,600. Is Kris Bryant still all the way down here? Okay. Scrolling. Nolan is above him. There's a lot of people that I wouldn't have expected. I would have expected Kris Bryant's not listed on BetOnline's odds there. CJ Crone is the representative for the Rockies. So Kris Bryant, 30 home runs. I'm confident in that. I would take the under on 30.5. I would take the over on 90 RBIs. And finally, our position player bets here. Let's take a look at Ryan McMahon. Ryan McMahon is listed for these. Let's see. I lost it. Now I have it again. Ryan McMahon, over 23.5 home runs, over 84.5 RBIs. Whew. Taking the under on the home runs. I'm taking the over on the RBIs. I think Ryan McMahon's approach is going to be contact-based. I don't think he's going to hit for a ton of power. At least I don't think it's going to be his main focus. But if Ryan McMahon hits 90 RBIs and 25 home runs, that would be wonderful. That would be a nice solid line for Ryan McMahon. Someone who I think has to be a massive factor for the Rockies, and that would be an increase of 2 home runs and 4 RBIs. I think so. That would be if he hits the 25 and 90 home run mark. So that if you're looking for the over, they're basically putting him right around his season stats last year, Ryan McMahon, where he finished up. So with that in mind, I'm really hoping for an increase from Ryan McMahon. So I want to put the good energy forward when I'm laying down the bet. I'll take the over on both of them, even though I flip-flopped on what I said about the home runs. But I think Ryan McMahon is going to shoot for that 25 home run total. Let's talk about pitcher odds and lines. But before we do that, let's tell you about the people who have been providing us with all of these lines, and that's BetOnline. BetOnline is your number one source for all your betting needs, sports information for all the latest odds, contests, and player props. You name it. After months of playing, college basketball has determined the top teams for the Final Four and will determine this year's national champion this coming week. BetOnline remains the best spot for all your latest sports developments, including podcasts and reviews for all the leagues this season. And it's not just basketball. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sporting wagering information needs, including live betting and your favorite Vegas casino games. Head to the website today or use your mobile device, right there, right in your pocket, to learn more about the trends in action at BetOnline, where the game starts. And we have been talking about BetOnline's lines all podcast long. Let's finish up our conversation about some props here. German Marquez, over 179.5 strikeouts or under. That's a tough one. I mean, German is going to strike out a lot of batters. It's what he does. He's really good at doing that. Last year, German had 176 strikeouts. So this would be 3 more strikeouts. Yes, I think I'm hoping that we see a really great year from the Rockies ace. And I'm really counting on it because when he was on last year, he was one of the best pitchers in baseball. And I got to see him in his dominant stretch right around the All-Star break when he was in Seattle. And boy, was his stuff absolutely electric. So I'm taking the over on the strikeouts there. Wins 11.5. I'm always just gonna for pitcher wins. I think I'm gonna take the under just because the pitcher wins are strange. Kyle Freeland over under on 7.5 wins. Take the over because I want to bring some good confidence to my boy Kyle Freeland, who we are hoping for a big year from. So yeah, there you go. There's a ton more odds and tons more things that you can check out at BetOnline if you want to go put some money on the Rockies. Those are just my brief tips, my brief advice on what I would do if I was placing. Where I would putting my mindset towards when I would be going for the money there or putting my money down. Again, just advice. Do whatever you want. I am no expert by any means. I am just the podcast guy looking at the numbers and thinking what I'm thinking and hoping and trying to keep an optimistic outlook for this Rockies team. One random thing that I wanted to talk about to finish out our Friday podcast today was the fact that umpires are going to be mic'd up. Finally. Thank God. I mean, we can finally know what's going on. Not only are baseball replays far too long in general already, then you can't hear anybody. Then you don't know what the heck is going on. And then you just watch these people stand there and they're just like, yeah. And then you just wait. And then sometimes they'll throw a hand signal that not everyone knows. And it's just so funny to me that it took this long. Everyone else has been doing it. Basketball has like the intense monitor where they like yell at you. And then, football obviously has been having the run up there and be the star of the show for a little bit forever. Just classic baseball being so late to something as simple as miking up the umpires. I guess the umpires just didn't want to, leave a hot mic when they're yelling back at a dugout or when they start chirping back after they're being yelled at or something like that. I don't know, but that's honestly going to make the baseball viewing product a little bit better. It's a small change, but it is going to make the baseball viewing experience a little bit better because it helps keep you engaged in the game. It helps you understand and follow the flow of the game instead of just a moment in the broadcast where it's just the umpires standing around with headphones on, and then the play-by-play is just filling time and with random B-roll of fans or just players standing there, highlights, whatever, what have you. So thank goodness that the umpires will be announcing replay review moments. The umpires always like being in the show anyway. So why not give yourself a little bit more spotlight? Folks, that's going to do it for today's episode of the Locked On Rockies podcast. Thank you all so much for tuning in today. For your second listen of the day, why don't you go check out Locked On MLB Prospects or the Locked On MLB or the Locked On MLB podcast. Both are great baseball resources. You can also stay up to date with all things Colorado sports by following the Locked On Avalanche, Broncos, Nuggets, and Rockies podcasts, all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. I'm Paul Holden. You can find me at Paul Holden 33. You can also follow the show at LO Rockies on Twitter. And we are also streaming our shows, our podcasts, live recordings on the YouTube channel. So go subscribe to the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel today. Have a wonderful weekend. Let's go Rockies. And this is Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies.